Hello everyone, welcome back. It's Meredith and today I'm going to be doing another vlog in my vlog series where I read books from around the world. So if you don't know what the concept of these vlogs is, I basically pick a country, I pick a bunch of books either by an author from that country, set in that country, about that country. So I read those books, then I buy something from that country to put on my bookshelf. So it could be like from a small business or just, you know, from that country. And then I also try my hand at baking or cooking something from that country. So I pick a cuisine from there and I try and cook it myself. And then I also watch some like documentaries, videos about that country as well. So I basically just read, cook, explore that country and learn about it together with all of you. So I used to do these within 1 week. I just tried to do it all in 1 week. I was basically putting these vlogs off because I was never finding the perfect week to give it everything I could. And then I got to a year and I hadn't done one and I was like, I guess the perfect week is never going to come. So I'm no longer restricting these to a week. I'm just going to do them. You guys can't even tell how long the time has been. Like, it literally doesn't matter. But anyway. So yeah, I'm super excited to bring this back. As I said, it's been like a year since I've done one of these. So it's about time I did one again. And these are like my favorite things to do on my channel. So I'm super excited. So yeah, for this vlog, I'm going to be doing Taiwan. I'm super excited. I've had the books for this for a little while now. I just, again, have never found the right time. The right time is finally here. So yeah, I'm super excited to be reading books from Taiwan for this vlog. So I have 2 physical books here and a few audiobooks I'm hoping to get through. So the first I have here is Gods of Want. I believe this author is Taiwanese. She lives in the US or the UK. So this was originally published in English. I don't know if the stories are set in Taiwan or the US or UK, but I'm very excited to give this a go. I believe they're just weird, bizarre, odd short stories. So we'll see how we go. Then I also have Notes of a Crocodile. This is by a Taiwanese author and it was translated into English. And this is set in Taipei in the 1980s. It's a coming of age story about a group of like college, uni age students who are all queer. My friend Freddie has read this and given it 5 stars and he doesn't give out a lot of 5 stars. So I think that's pretty promising. And when I asked what he was thinking, he said it was emo. So I'm like, emo, 5 stars. So this book's going to be amazing. So yes, I'm very excited to pick this one up. And then again, I do have a few audiobooks here. I don't know how many of these I'll get to. Now, I bought the thing for this vlog like a year ago, so I can't even remember where I got it. We'll see if I can find it in my Etsy history. Yeah, I purchased this the 23rd of August 2022, so that's nearly a year. But I got this from Draw and Lyrics, which is a Taiwanese small business on Etsy, and they do like, I believe it's like watercolor art. So I got a little coaster to put on my shelves. So let's open it. I've had this for so long and I finally get to look at it. Here it is. Isn't it beautiful? Look at all the colors. And there's a little kitty there and it's really good quality. Like obviously I'm not using it as a coaster, but you can see it's got like the soft padding. And it's very smooth, so like it won't get water damage, because sometimes you get coasters and then like they aren't like done properly, so they get damaged. But yeah, absolutely beautiful. Let's zoom up on the cat if I can. Yee, little kitty. It's beautiful. That's gonna go on my shelves, which is very exciting. Yeah, I'm so excited to be doing one of these vlogs though and learning about Taiwan. It's gonna be a good time. Really weird. I was meant to be expressing pain, but I feel like I just looked like I was trying to shit, so that was weird. Let's move on. I've read Notes of a Crocodile. I'm emotional for two reasons. One, mostly because this book was very sad, but also two, I finally read it. Like, I feel like I've talked about this book for so long. I mean, I'm making it sound like it's been 10 years. It's been like a year, but a year is a long time to talk about this book. Whenever I talk about it, I'm like, I really need to read this. And then I just never read it. So all that suffering and pain can now end because I have read it. And I know that all of you were desperately waiting to hear my thoughts on this book. So now you finally get them. You can sleep peacefully tonight. Oh, I hate myself. This wasn't really what I described, but also that's what you kind of led to think this book's about. So I don't think I was completely wrong. I think it was justified, but it was also kind of incorrect. So it is set in post-martial law era of late 1980s Taipei. That was correct. It's a coming of age story, but it says here of queer misfits discovering love, friendship, and artistic affinity. When it says like queer misfits, it makes you think that's like a friendship group. I feel like queer misfits, in my head, I'm thinking like a very cute group of friends. That's not really what this is. It is very much about an anonymous, which I forgot that. I was very excited when I remembered. But yeah, the person in this book is anonymous. They're called Liza, I think it was, by one of their friends. So at one point they're referred to as Liza, but that's just a random nickname they made up. So we don't know the character's name. They're anonymous, and it's their like diary entries, like letters that they've written, and it's about them. It's not about a friendship group, but they do have friends who are queer that pop up throughout their like letters, diary entries, but it is about this person, Liza. I'll just call her Liza, even though like I don't know what her name is. So we also have chapters about crocodiles, and in this book, crocodiles are living amongst humans, and they are wearing like human skin. So they're like in this human costume, but they're actually crocodiles. And so there's kind of this moral panic about, oh my god, there's crocodiles living among us. Who's a crocodile? There's like pro-croc and like anti-croc or whatever, like groups. There's meetings for the people who are actually crocs to meet up. Wait, I just actually said crocs. I'm just thinking of the shoes. Meeting up, having a meeting. Oh god. I love weird shit that has like no sense of reality within it, but actually has a very like real meaning behind it. I know some books can be weird just for the sake of it, but I'm so pretentious. I'm on that other level where I'm like, I want there to be some themes and deeper meaning behind the weird shit. And also I appreciated that the themes behind that, I mean, there could be all kinds of things, but I feel like you can gather something out of it quite easily. Like, I don't think you need to be incredibly intelligent to pick up on the fact, unless I'm incorrect and there's all of this other deeper meanings that I haven't picked up on. But I feel like at least this is quite easy to pick up on, which is that it's kind of this weird, very over the top but hilarious imagery of being queer and what possibly the author was feeling like as a lesbian herself, feeling like you are different and hated and fearful, and because you are different, people do not understand you or like you, and people fear what they do not know. And so it's almost like the author was comparing being a queer person in Taipei during this time as being a crocodile. And you feel like you're a crocodile or an imposter in human skin. And I really appreciated that imagery, and I appreciated that it was pretty over the top and kind of obvious, I feel like, what the intention was. And it was just great. I loved it. Like, just these random chapters about crocodiles in human skins that had nothing to do with the story, and I thought it was so brilliant and bizarre and wacky, and it just worked really well. And I loved especially that it actually had roots within the actual story as well, and I just love how it worked. And I think because these are like diary entries, they just fit in so wacky and weirdly, and I wonder, like, was this actually like happening, or were these stories that Lisa had written herself? I don't know. It's really cool. But the way this is written, I noticed with the earthworm in the labyrinth, it's like, I don't know if it's a translation thing, because I feel like this is a very lyrical, poetic book. Like, it's very beautifully written, and I feel like when it comes to a beautiful sounding sentence or paragraph, a lot of it is the way that the words sound. The words need to sound nice and flow nicely together, and so this is a like completely different sound, and they've translated it into English. I wonder how differently it reads in its original language. I really liked this and the Labyrinth Earthworm book. The way they're written was so different from anything I experienced, and it is very like lyrical and strange and bizarre and very like dramatic and over the top and just so emotional. And it doesn't read like most books that you read in like Western languages. Like, it feels very unlinear, all over the place. I feel like most Western books, it's like the beginning and end, and there's a structure, and everything's filled in, and everything makes sense. Whereas this was all over the place. Like, there was no beginning to end. I felt like it just went wherever it went. You were really just following these diary entries, letters, whatever, that this woman had written, and they were just completely all over the place, and it wasn't like a story in a way. So I'm wondering if it's like a translation thing, because I'm so new to reading translated books and I'm not very smart, and I've never really studied language, so I'm, you know, one of the most basic white bitches ever. Yeah, it worked really well for me, even though it's not something I'm used to. I just love the experience of reading something so completely different in the way that it's written, and it's so dramatic. Like, I love the way people in this book behave, because it is so over the top, but because of how over the top the writing is, it just works. And also we have an unreliable narrator, so you wonder, like, did these things actually happen? And they're a very dramatic person, like the way they've written these is so beautiful and over the top, and so you wonder, like, did these things actually happen, or is this just this character's like melodrama looking back on this like event? But it does tackle a lot, so please check those content warnings. It tackles like homophobia a lot, but I find it's not actually tackling like homophobia in the moment. It's tackling how it makes people feel. So it's more about how this character feels about herself, but we don't really often see her being treated poorly for it. It's more, we know it's happening, and this is her reaction and how she feels because of it. And for her, it's a lot of self-loathing. It's a lot of incapability to have, you know, healthy relationships, self-sabotaging herself because of the fact that she is queer, and she feels shame for it. So it's quite a sad book because of that. And I think that you see a lot of toxic relationships in this book, and I do wonder if that is, when you're in a country like this at this time, it's not safe to be queer. It's something that you're taught to be ashamed of. And so I wonder if it's sort of covering how when people are in these circumstances and they're shameful of who they are, they do self-sabotage things that make them happy, especially within their queerness. And it makes you wonder if that's why there were so many toxic relationships within this of, what's the word? There was a lot of this happening where you, there's a term for it. Come on, Meredith, you were sounding kind of smart. Now you've lost it. I'm making zero sense. You know when you, codependent. Oh my god, it took me so long. So there's a lot of codependent relationships in this, and they're very much romanticized, but they're also very unhealthy. So this is not like a romantic book. It's romantic in the beauty of the writing. It's got nothing to do with this book. Like, these books are nothing alike, but it gave me the feeling that Frankenstein did, where it's like, I feel like not a lot is happening, but the writing is so beautiful that I'm just completely in awe. Like, this was one of the most beautifully written books I've ever read, and it was so dramatic as well, and I was just like, this is my shit. So yeah, I ended up giving it 5 stars, if you couldn't pick up on that. I want to read out some quotes, but there's so many, and I feel overwhelmed thinking about like picking quotes, because I'm like, what if I miss the best one? I'm just gonna read a few from the start, and just know there's more to come. Pick it up for yourself to read them. Cruelty and mercy are one and the same. Existence in this world regulates good and evil to the exact same status. Cruelty and evil are only natural, and together they are endowed with half the power and half the utility in this world. It seems I'm going to have to learn to be crueler if I'm to become the master of my own fate. It was definitely the kind of book where you had to like stop so many times. Like, I feel like it took me 10 years to read this book, because I'd have to keep rereading sentences, and I don't know if it's because of the translation, but I feel like they're a little bit clunky. There's a lot of words, but they're just beautiful, and like sometimes I didn't even understand them, and sometimes I really had to think about it until I was like, okay, I think that's what that means. The fact is, most people go through life without ever living. They say you have to learn how to construct a self who remains free in spite of the system, and you have to get used to that idea that it's every man for himself in this world. It requires a strange self-awareness whereby everything down to the finest detail must be performed before the eyes of the world. So it definitely was also, yeah, a coming of age story, talking about, you know, going to college, going to uni, and what the world expects of you, and how you are just like another cog in the wheel, and how you find meaning and individualism in a world like this that makes you feel like you're just there to help the greater, you know, mass production. and how you can carve out your space. That was a lesser part of the book, I felt like, but it was still definitely there. Like, there was a lot going on here, and I do wonder like how autobiographical this book was. I have had a client cancel, so I'm just sitting in my car waiting for my next client. I've got Gods of Want here. I am halfway through the collection. I read half last night. I wanted to finish it last night, but I procrastinated a little bit because I'm not loving this. I think it's good and I'm enjoying it, but it's not going to be 5 stars, which I kind of was hoping it would be. I think it's weird, not the kind of weird I love, but I do like the weirdness. I have a problem where when something is weird, I just want there to be some deep philosophical meaning behind it. I think I said that when I was talking about Notes for Crocodile. I just like when the weirdness has a meaning, and every time something is weird, I'm like desperately trying to find that meaning. But I think this book is just weird and there's no meaning behind it, and so I'm left a little bit unsatisfied and unsure if I'm just stupid or there isn't any meaning. So I'm just gonna keep reading them and then maybe have a look at what other people have said about them. I honestly was really tired yesterday when I was reading these, so I think maybe I just need to give these a bit more brain power than I was giving them yesterday, and maybe there's more meaning behind the weirdness. But it's still fun. Like, it's like sitting at a 4 stars at the moment because they're really well written. But yeah, they're really fun. They're kind of wacky. There's some really cool imagery. My favorite so far has been Eating Pussy, not just because of the title, but the title is iconic. We are up to the cooking portion of the video. So today I'm going to be making chewy Taiwanese snowflake crisps. So I got this from the SBS World Food website. Again, I don't go super authentic just because it often requires ingredients that I don't have, that are going to be expensive to buy and I'm probably never going to use again. So this SBS website is usually pretty good. It's a confection in Taiwan and Hong Kong, and it's one of their best-selling snacks. So we're going to make it. It's meant to be easy. It's only meant to take 10 minutes to prepare. I think it's going to be a bit like nougat, how do you pronounce it? So I've got Ritz crackers, I've got some cranberries, I've got some milk powder, I've got some marshmallows, I've got some butter, and I've got some peanuts. So I've got everything. That's all I'm going to need. So let's get into it. Been the required time to let it sit. Let's uncover it. It smells amazing. Like, it just smells like marshmallows, of course, but it smells good. It's not actually super hard yet, but I've waited like the amount of time. So yeah, I'm worried about getting this out because you're meant to put baking paper, but I don't have any, so we'll just see how we go. Oh, it came out! Oh my gosh! Okay. Here it is. Ooh, looks good. Normally my cooking looks and tastes pretty shit for this video, but I'm thinking this is gonna be good. I'm thinking this is gonna be my favorite so far. Okay, we're ready. That is really good. I love that. That is very tasty. So if you want to try making these, totally worth it. It's really nice. I don't know if it's finished setting, but it's not like nougat. It's soft. I feel like this is the first really big success I've had doing these videos. So yay. Hello. I have read another book, so I thought I would update. I read Hunter School. This is I don't know what to call this. It's like labeled as fiction, but I think it is biographical in some sense, but it's based very heavily on people's stories. So this is about Indigenous Taiwanese people, particularly Taiwan people, and so this is heavily based on stories from people in this group. And so it's fiction, but not fiction. So I haven't rated it because I don't really rate fiction, and I feel weird rating this even though like it's actually fiction. I don't know, but it reads like it's not fiction. So while I was reading it, I thought it wasn't. But anyway, it's based on people's experiences, and it's different. It's not essays, but it's different sections, and it's kind of about people coming back to their roots, learning more about their culture. And so there's different sections about learning about hunting and animals. There is a section where they are hunting animals, so just keep that in mind if you're sensitive to that. But it really talked about, you know, how you respect the animals so that they can pass on into the afterlife, and how you only kill animals for food. It was really beautiful. It was a really, really beautiful book. I absolutely loved it. It's very short, but it really gives you an insight into what it's like for these people. It's also just like really, really lovely because it's written so sentimentally, and it's so raw and emotional, but also very like intriguing and interesting. So I learned a lot, and it talks about so many topics that I just love to read about, like I guess traditionalism versus modernity, and what place do these old traditions have in this new world and a changing world, and what it's like living in Taiwan as well with everything that's going on. And was just really lovely, and I highly recommend picking it up because I think it's so interesting to learn about, you know, these people that I didn't know anything about before I read this book. So it was really great, and I highly recommend. I've also watched some like documentaries and stuff on Taiwan. I particularly wanted to learn about the history of Taiwan. Obviously the political situation there is not great, and I knew about that, but I wanted to learn a little bit more. And I feel like that's kind of important, and it's not something I learned about in school, and it's something that I love about these vlogs is I'm learning more about countries in a way that I'm hoping I will retain at least a lot of information, because I feel like when I learn stuff, it just like goes in one ear and out the other. Like I engage in the learning, but then I don't remember it, and I just learned more about what it's like there now. It's a really beautiful country. So one of the videos said, which may not be correct, one of Asia's top 4 most important economies, because there's a lot of production that goes there, a lot of like microchipping and stuff, which I didn't realize. Like when I think about Asia and I think about the top economies, well, not necessarily the top, but they're most important, I just don't think of Taiwan. So I think that's really interesting, but I'm also stupid. So hello, I'm here to wrap this vlog up. So I have read 2 more things. I'm going to go over those and then we'll be done. So I did finish reading Gods of Want. I don't really know how I feel about this. Thinking a 4-star, 3.5 to a 4-star. Like I enjoyed this. I was not bored. I was entertained, but there probably is deeper meanings behind this. I'm just not smart enough to pick up on it. But I also just don't know if there is any. It's quirky, it's strange, and I think if you like that sort of thing, you'll enjoy this. But I also feel like a lot of them were really similar. Like, I think that's my main problem with this, is that, yes, I have those things that make me not enjoy this sort of stuff personally, but I still think they're strong, well-written stories. But I do feel like, yeah, some of them were kind of similar, and they blur together in my head a bit. Majority of these do have, like, sapphic elements, so they're all about queer women, which is really cool. Yeah, like it was fun, but not personally what I look for in this. But I'm not gonna like give it a low rating because it's not what I personally am looking for. And then I did read Fiona and Jane. This is by a American Taiwanese author, so some of it is set in America, some of it is set in Taiwan. Didn't really like this. It was okay. I just don't think it's the kind of book that goes well with an audiobook. Like, some books are written to be physically read, I feel like, and I feel like this is one of those books because, so it jumps around like time wise, so it'll go to the future, then the past, back and forth, and like it's all over the place. There's no like rhythm to it, and it's really hard to keep track of what's happening via audiobook. I just really didn't have a good time with this because I never knew like where things were in the timeline. Also, I thought it was going to focus on this like friendship, possibly like romantic relationship between these two women, but they're barely together in the story, and a lot of their relationship is quite negative and strained throughout this. One of them is queer, so it focuses on that. One of them has a queer dad, it focuses on that, so there's lots of queer elements to this, which I enjoyed. But yeah, it just didn't translate well in audiobook without physically reading, and I also feel like I just like barely remember it. I gave it 3 stars because there was still some important discussions about, you know, their culture and being queer and all of that, and strained relationships with family and friends. So it was still interesting, but yeah, I was just a bit underwhelmed. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this vlog. I really hope that you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments if you're gonna pick up any of these books, because I'd absolutely love to know. And let me know any countries you'd like to see in future vlogs, because I'm gonna try and do as many as I can. There's obviously a lot of countries out there, and I don't even know if every country has a book translated in English, but I'm just going to try my best. I love doing these vlogs. They're so much fun. Again, they do take a little bit more time and money than other vlogs. They're not done as regularly, but I've got 2 more ready to go, so I'm going to try and pump them out. Oh, and in the next few days, I'm hoping to print out a world map. Every time I do these vlogs, I can color in that country, and so I'm hoping to get as many colored in as possible. But yeah, hopefully I'll see you next time, but until then, bye!